Well, hello everybody. I thought I'll go a little bit live for you today. So a bit of a spacer, I know. So it's knowing when I'm live and when I'm not. That's the thing. So I just started on this probably over the past couple of hours really. I started on this. As you can probably guess, this is a barn owl. Alright. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. So I just thought I'd start another barn owl today. Kind of doing some video editing this morning and a bit more painting this afternoon. Now, the idea is I'm trying to build up the texture within the wood, just using my 00 brush at the moment. So the sooner I can build up this texture, the more realistic it will feel once I've got the texture on there. So I'm very lightly touching the paper, kind of easing off a little bit as I go over to the left hand side. Okay, I'll just make sure I can see if everybody's watching as well. Oh, we've got two people watching. Hello there. So say hello. I've got no idea where to even find this at the moment, so bear with me a minute. Let's have a quick look there. Serve URL, that's that one there. Stream options. Elapsed time watching. Okay. So, let's see if I can find out where people are. Right, so you have to bear with me on this one because I can't see any comments on the screen just yet because I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm still fairly new to doing this YouTube live, to be honest with you, so I had to get it all up and running, but trying to find where I am and where things are is a different matter, different kind of kettle of fish really. So yeah, so I'll keep jiggling around with my screens at the moment and see what I can find. Okay, well there you go. What's that one? That's a quick test one. I don't know if that's the right one. Right, hello from Tennessee. Hello, Julie. How are you? So I decided what I've got actually is two tablets on the go. One with a photograph on and one with the screen on where I can see comments coming up. Okay, so if you want to say hello, now I should be able to see the comments you put on there. Right, so what I'm doing, I'm using a mixture of burnt umber and I'm trying to figure that one. So I'm going to use burnt sienna within there as well. Trying to build up these details within the wood texture. So I get a little bit more. It's all about building up all the time. Now I've got a photograph in front of me. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the photograph on the screen briefly for you so you can just see the one I mean. So if I just go back to where I want to be on that one, so bear with me a minute. So the reference photo is that there. That's what I'm working on at the moment. Just kind of give you some ideas, the kind of texture I'm going to put in. I'm going to put a lot of additional wood texture within this side, as well, kind of fade it out as it goes back to kind of feel a feel of recession as the details goes into the background there. So that'll give you some ideas what I've got on the screen there. So that's that one. Okay. So I'm back to it. Just a little bit more within there. So I want to build this up gradually, as I say, but there's a lot of texture within that photograph. I can just see some shapes, and it's kind of picking out these shapes as I go along as well. I mean, that really is obviously very important, trying to get the shapes right. So if I can do that, then, you know, we can't be doing too bad. So it's looking at all the little textures. So using the tip of the brush. What I tend to do as well is kind of soften this down in between the layers and just pick out some of those finer details kind of within the texture itself. One thing I'm going to do in a minute as well is remove the masking fluid I got on there. That's all that blue stuff you can see. I tend to use, the one I've got is from SAA, Society for All Artists, I think it's called. And I've been with them for many years as a member. It's not an advert for them. But the one I use is called Blue Mask, which is, I'll just find it for you a minute, which is this one here. Right, so Blue Mask. Quite a good one actually, I quite like that. And because I can see where I put it. Because you can get the transparent masking fluid, but it's good stuff, don't get me wrong, but it's trying to find out where you put it and, you know, trying to spot it. So yeah. So that's that. Okay, so that's on there. Go back to there. Okay, so what we got? We've got 5 people on board. Hello, everybody. You can say hello. I'm not scary. I may look scary, but I'm not scary, honestly. I'm trying to see where some of these details go down the side of the wood as well. See, the thing is, I want to leave the masking fluid there just whilst I get the darker colours on there, especially around here, look, just underneath where the barn owl comes through the wood. Well, it's a gap in the wood, obviously. It doesn't kind of come through the wood. It'd be a very strong barn owl if it did that, wouldn't it? So, working all the details around there as well. Okay. I'm trying to see where it goes around the top of the head there, because it's quite dark around there, but then we've got to just get a little bit more colour. This is burnt umber, lamp black, and a little bit of sap green in there as well. We're using the very tip of the brush, is what I want to do. The very tip of the brush. Just kind of add those little details in. Actually, when I went live just now and clicked on go live, it didn't give me a countdown. So I thought, I'm alive, I'm alive. I don't know. So a little question for you as well. I will answer questions later on, by the way. I'll go through anything, any comments that people put on here concerning wildlife in watercolour. So any questions you want to ask, please fire away. Okay, I'll do my best to answer them for you. I.e. what brushes I use, what paints I use, the paper, what paper type do I use? How thick does, the kind of consistency of the paint that I tend to use on a regular basis? What watercolour white do I use? I do use watercolour white, and it's one of those things. But a lot of people tend to shun a little bit. Not everybody, I know. It's just it's one of those things where if you're a botanical or landscape artist or anything like that, not many people in those kind of themes and those kind of idea of painting use watercolour white or black, but I use both. Some people do, but I'm not a traditional watercolour artist. I tend to work on what's right for me. All right. Thing is, what's the right way for you to paint? How do you know that the way you've been taught is the right way? The way I see it is that my way might not be the right way, but it's a way that I prefer to paint, and that's what I suggest with you, is that when you're painting, paint your way, and your way for you is the right way. I hope that makes sense to you anyway. So I'm going to go for a little bit of raw sienna. I'm going to start adding this in to some of these little sections within the wood as well, just to kind of create like a feeling of curvature within there as well. Because what I'll do when this is all done, I'll add a little bit of watercolour white in there. If anybody's interested as well, by the way, if you are interested, remember I've got my Patreon channel which I teach watercolour on. A little bit of an advert, so watch out, okay? Bear with me. So, and I teach full watercolour tutorials in video format, which I record here at home and then turn into full videos on there. If you're interested in trying one out for free, you can do. There's no sign up or anything like that, no email addresses changing hands or anything like that. Just pop onto my Patreon site, which is here, look, patreon.com, the Devon Artist. There's a link below for you, and click on that, and there's a full robin tutorial on how to paint, obviously, a robin, but also I'll give you the reference photograph and the outline drawing I've done for that particular robin tutorial, just so you can get a flavour, get some ideas on how I tend to do my watercolour tuition. Okay, so there's no commitment, no nothing from you at all, other than pop onto my channel, have a look. That's it. Okay, so all I'm doing is gradually building up the details using this raw sienna. But I think what I might do actually is have a little bit of raw sienna, a little bit of burnt umber, and I want to use this just down this side here. Oh, Kathy, hello, Kathy. Oh, hi, Kathy. I used to buy floods across the state. Love the robin tutelage. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pebble. So very kind of you. I've got no idea how many people we got on board. 13, 12, 13, something like that. Or how long I'll stay live for. What do you guys think? Do you think I should stay live for 20 minutes or 30 minutes? Your choice. Let me know. just while I kind of work on this little bar now. Now this has to be really dark down here now, so I'm going to go for a little bit of black, mix it with some brown, so lamp black, burnt umber, and a little bit of, let's have a look, so we'll go for raw sienna. Now I want to darken this down. Now I really need to think about the dark section, just so we can divide these two areas apart now, where the wood obviously goes around there. I need to remove this masking fluid off there yet, which I will do. Okay, hope you all can see this clear enough. Tell you what I'll do actually, do you want me to zoom in a little bit for you? Would that be easier? If you do, put a comment below. There's about a 30-second, trying to think actually, about a 30-second delay from when I talk to you to when you actually hear it on the internet. So bear that in mind. So if you do put a comment, just give me 30 seconds to kind of review the comments so I can have a quick look and see what people have said. So I'm adding this detail in now just to kind of darken this area down here. Coming a little bit more now. I'm going to get even darker. Okay, down to here. Just a little bit more. And to there. Okay. Now I can see on the photograph as well, which I'll just bring back in for you to see what I mean. When you look at the photograph, you can see on the side there that just below the barn owl here, there's another section. You've got the main section here, look. There's another section just to the right hand side of that. So I just want to make sure I can make that stand out a little bit more. Okay, so that's my next aim, really, to kind of pick that out. And I'm looking for more like a vinaigrette feel around the main barn owl itself. So I'm going to do that. But I'll tell you what I might try and do for you, zoom in a little bit more, if we can do that. Okay, there we go. I've just pushed that up a little bit for you as well. You can just see what I'm working on down the bottom. There we go. How's that? Is that better for you? Right, there we go. Actually, it's about a 20-second delay now. Right, okay. So I'm going to work on just down to the side here. Pick out some of these details. I'm going to use a bit of a shaky hand. Just a little bit of a shaky hand, just so I can pick it out. And this definitely needs to be dark, so I'm going to go for some lamp black. Hello, lamp black on its own. Just down to the side. Hope you guys have made yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I've got one here going cold. So I'll need another one after this. Now I also want to look towards the top as well, so that's a little bit down there. I just want to make sure you can see what I'm looking at here. So right at the very top, I'll work on that one. Okay, just going to check the audio. Yeah, that's working fine, which is good. I've been having a problem with the audio on this microphone before, so I need to make sure it's all hunky-dory for you. Right, okay, so now the top curls around to here, and tiny little marks, barely touching the paper. As you can probably tell, I am left-handed, so I can do it from this side easy enough. Has its benefits, but then again, not always. And a few little more touches here and there as well. So you want to get the white on here. The white will really make it stand out as well. You can make it pop. Not literally, but you can make it pop. Okay, so now I'm going to go for that raw sienna, a little bit of the burnt sienna, and probably just a touch of burnt umber. And I'm going to start adding a few more details just to the top here, because I want to make sure that this kind of graduates back, so it kind of fades back towards the background, just by adding a few extra little details. Then these details will slowly fade away and then disappear just into the background, just like that. That's it. Yeah, that'll do. Just to there. Okay, and I'll add some more down to the bottom as well, and probably to the side a little bit as well, so just make sure we can see what we're doing. So I just push that one up for you. So if I bring some more down to the bottom here, a few darks first, I think, not many though, because it's not going to be that dark down there, just a few. I've already removed a piece of masking fluid from there just to see what the effect will be like when I start adding colour around it. Okay, So that's too thick, as you can see. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to get hold of my finger and then just brush it back up. There you go. Just brush it up with your finger. So the little effect you can use is by too much, brush it back up. There you go. Adds to the wood texture every time. And a bit more down there. Right, the next thing I need to think about doing, if I just zoom back out again for you so you can just see all the entire picture. You can now see the full picture down there, and I want to remove some of that masking fluid. So hopefully, the areas I'm going to move it from should still be dry. So we'll have a look what that's like. Okay. So you two been chatting, Julie? Julie and Pebble chatting away there, I don't know. So remember, if you've got any questions you want to ask, please do so. Now, before you move masking fluid, what you need to do, dry your finger. Okay, again, I'm using my left hand because that's how I am. So dry your fingers first on a bit of kitchen roll. So you haven't got any natural oils or grease, as my partner would call it, on your fingers. And then what we're going to do is just very lightly, roll the masking fluid in towards the barn owl itself. Now, it's not too much of a problem with this particular painting, because what can happen is that it can sometimes tear the paper, especially if you've used a hairdryer, something like that, to kind of dry it, which you shouldn't do with masking fluid, because it can sink the masking fluid into the paper, and then when you try to remove the masking fluid, it will pull the paper off at the same time. Now, but if it does tear the paper, by doing it towards the subject, the tear will be within here, and we can hide that up with the paint later on. However, if you painted a very nice background, or even a graduated faded background, and it tears into that, it will stand out like a sore thumb. So bear that in mind when you're removing masking fluid, okay? A little tip for you is that do it using the tip of your finger and roll it towards the subject. If you can, anyway. You can't always do it down here, obviously, but I'll give you some ideas of what I mean. So just move that a little bit higher. Coming down. Sounds like a lift, doesn't it? Going down. And then down to here as well. I've got no idea how long I've been on for. Just down to there. I'm not too worried about any imperfections within there either, because of the fact at the end of the day I'll be painting those over when I put the leaves on another day. Now, if anybody wants to see a continuation of this tomorrow, I will be on Facebook Live. Alright, so I'll be going on Facebook Live just so I can carry on with the barn owl. I'll be on here for a little bit longer yet, so don't worry. That's it, just to there. Right, okay. Right, so back to it. Here we go. So the barn owl is ready to go. Woo. Right, so let's get a little bit more detail on the back. I'll tell you what I might do. I'm going to add a little bit of watercolour white in there in a minute, just so we can add a bit of extra detail in there. But once I've done that, then I'll start thinking about painting the eyes. Okay, because think about barn owl eyes as well. They're so like black orbs. They really are. But yet there's also brown in there at the same time. There's amazing colours when you look really deeply into barn owl's eyes. One of the projects I'm going to be doing for Patreon, by the way, just there, will be how to paint a horse's eye. Really? Yeah. Because there's so much detail in a horse's eye, and it's something that I really enjoy painting when I get a chance as well. I've still got a little bit of masking fluid in there, so I'll have to remove that in a bit. Okay, right, let's make a start on the barn owl's eyes. You ready for this? I'm not. No. Yes, I am. So what I've got my tablet in front of me, as I mentioned, which is just over there off camera. You can't see it, but I can zoom into the photograph and I can make sure that I've got everything just right the way that I want it. So let's have a quick look. I'll just make sure I can zoom in for a little bit more for you. Right, that's as much as I can do, I'm afraid, with my technology that I've got here. Okay, here we go. Now the barn owl's eyes, as I said, they're like black orbs, but there's a lot of colour in there when you really look into those eyes. But I'm going to use probably a couple of colours initially, just for the first washes. And that's going to be something like, it's going to be like a burnt sienna, raw umber, that sort of thing. In fact, I might just go burnt sienna with a little bit of burnt umber. I'll do that. So let's go for A little bit of burnt sienna. Alright, that's going to be in there. So burnt sienna and burnt umber. Oh, look at that, lovely colour. So when you test this out on some watercolour paper, that's the kind of colour I'm looking for. In fact, I'll tell you what I will do, I'll have a little bit more burnt sienna in there. Now I'm very lightly mixing my colours here with my 00 brush. Okay, very lightly. There's a little bit redder now, as you can see. And because of that, what I mean is, don't use your detail brush to mix your watercolours with, because you just ruin it. What I have got is this one here. You see it on the palette cam, which is an old. How old is it? I think it's Stone Age. It's really, really old. I've had it for many years. It's an old acrylic brush which I use, and I use that solely for mixing when I've got to do large mixes. But for general little mixes, that's a group, isn't it? Little mix. Okay, I'll start again. For general little mixes, you tend to find that the very small people that I tend to use my 00 brush. I'm losing the plot now. I do apologise. Okay, now the first thing I like to do is very lightly outline the eyes. Alright, so very lightly outline the eyes. If you've got any questions that you want to fire at me whilst I'm online, do so, because you've got about 10 minutes before I go. 10 minutes. Then that is it. No, I'll still be around, don't worry. I'll be checking my I'll be checking this later on. Now I'm using the very tip of the brush for this, and I'm also looking carefully, very carefully at the photograph, just so we can get the outline shape right to begin with, because that's so important. It really, really is. Can I express that a bit more than that? That's so important. So I'm looking at the curvature there. That's about right there. And then there's a little area just underneath the eye. I've got another line coming around. I'm just doing this very lightly to begin with. There's not a lot of paint on the brush. Now this actually comes out around here. These are little sections, little segments which kind of hook and little curls like so. Just like that ish sort of thing. We've got a highlight at the top of the eye, but also looking at that as well, this actually comes around, looking at where it goes on the top of the eye to about there. Alright, that goes to about there. And then we'll do the same again with the other eye. So again, I've got a pencil mark there, but even though I've got the pencil on there to begin with, it doesn't mean to say it's spot on. This is where I like to kind of fine tune the outline, just to make sure it's about right. And just to there, what I like to probably try and do, I do the barn owl's eye, if I can, on camera before I go. It means it's going to be a longer video there. So sorry, hope you don't mind sitting and waiting. And then we've also got the bottom one. Now I'm thinking about the size relation as well. Now the eyes are not always the same size, and that's because it might have one eye slightly closed. But in this case, they're about the same. So if I bring this line down, I'm fine tuning it now so I can just see what the height and the width of this. You can measure them. If you want them both the same, you can use the tip of the brush and your thumbnail. Measure from one corner down to the other, like so. Okay? Then you can do the same again, use that same measurement on the other side so you know they're the same size. Oh, there's another tip. I'll stop doing that. I'm going to stop giving tips. It's not on, you know. Okay. Right, let's have a look at any questions you got on there. So we've got one from Julie. Hi, Julie. Paul, do you ever mask out the highlights in the eye, or do you simply add them back in with a white if they get lost? Yes. I do, Julie. Yes, I do actually. I try to leave them to one side. So, for example, the highlight in here is around that area there. Okay, but because it's such a tiny little speck, what I'll probably do is just put the white over the top. Tends to vary. Depends on how large the highlight is. If it's something, I'm going to paint over this one, for example. If it's something like a dog's eye or something like that, and there's a lot of light shining in the eye, then one, I've got to show the colour within the eye, but I've also got to show the highlight. So then sometimes I will reserve the white highlight. Not always, depends how I feel that day. But it's quite handy to reserve it if you want to make sure that you know exactly where the highlight goes. Because sometimes you put it in and you think, is that the right place? Oh, it looks like it's cross-eyed now, that's no good. So you have to think about that before you actually pop it in. But thank you for the question. Any more questions are welcome while I'm here. You've got me, I'm all yours. I don't know if that's good or bad, to be honest with you. But you've got me anyway. So I'm going to pop this colour into here, but I'm only going to go to about that height there for now. I might go a little bit thicker. Just a little bit thicker, so this is going to be the colour, the foundation wash colour underneath, which will stand out. So if I need to pull some paint off, this will be the layer underneath, not the white of the paper. And I want this to be like a very light, or barely visible within the eye, but that'll add that extra colour within the eye as well. Okay. So now I'll do the same on the other eye. I've got a highlight on that, but I think I'll just obliterate that highlight in there where I've marked it out. I can do that with a pencil just by rubbing it with the water. Just knock it back a bit. Now let that soak in a little bit. I don't want it to be too runny in there because you tend to find it could just run down the paper. I don't want to do that. Then do the same thing on this side as well. Now again, this is just that foundation wash. Oh, I whistled then when I spoke, didn't I? It's just that foundation wash. Oh, I did it again. Where it will add to the extra colour within the eye. Alright, so that's what that'll do. Just let it soak in. Now then, while that's drying, what I'd like to do, because it looks a bit odd like that, but I need that to be the case. Because obviously we're going to build on the top of that in layers as we go along. I'm going to get a little bit of my watercolour white. Now get ready for this, okay, because my watercolour white is quite ancient. It really is. It's so old. I think it was made in 1851 or something like that. It's very, very old. It's an SAA one which I tend to use, and I use their whites on a regular basis. But there's some good ones out there. I've got a whole video on watercolour whites on my Patreon channel. If anybody's interested, of course, if you want to learn how to use a watercolour white, then you can go on there, have a look on my patreon.com/the Devon artist. Hey, that's me, So I'm going to get some white in my palette, and I'm going to pick up some of that white paint. But first things first, and that's have a drink of coffee. Have you got yours with you today? Right, okay, I'm ready now. So watercolour white, I'm going to use this while that under my eyes are dry. I'm going to use this for just a few highlights within the wood. The wood's not quite finished yet, but I do want to add a few little highlights in there. And you can see, hopefully you can see, just by adding little touches here and there could brighten up some of these areas. Now I tend to think when I'm painting wood that I think about all sorts of shapes within the wood. So I'm thinking that there's a shape here on its own, as you can see there, just about. Another shape here, and I want to catch the edges of those shapes with some white paint. Not all of them, just a few. You don't overdo it with white, but already that's starting to kind of take effect, which is what we're after. Just by using a little bit of watercolour white. You can use white gouache as well. That's quite a good medium to use. In fact, you can also use white acrylic paint. And I've got a video on here actually when I was painting a cat on using white acrylic paint with watercolour. And it has its benefits, it has its downfalls as well, so it depends on the kind of effect that you want if you're going to use something like white acrylic. Alright, so any questions you're welcome to ask that. Okay, so I'm going to add a few more of these. It's not dry in there yet. I've got quite warm lights on here. I've got two very large box lights on the go. So it is quite warm. How long have we been on for? 29 minutes. I'm going to go in a bit, guys. I'm going to have to go in a bit. I do want to finish these eyes, but I might have to do that on Facebook tomorrow. If anybody wants to catch me on Facebook, I suppose I can pick a time now. You've got 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes to name a time in the afternoon. UK time, please, guys. So bear in mind, it's UK time when you want to see me on here. You've got the choice of either 3 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Now you've got the choice of either 1 o'clock through till 3:30 for UK time in the afternoon. Not in the morning, obviously. I'll be fast asleep in bed that time of the day. So bear that in mind. Just adding these little highlights in, using the very tip of my 00 brush. Okay, Julie. Oh, Butterfly Angel, you are brilliant. This is such a one to fall in love with. When I fall in love. Anyway, okay. Thank you. It'll be forever. That's enough of that. Okay, stop, Paul. Right, okay. So, thank you. You've thrown me now. Thank you very much indeed. I could never get the watercolour white to be white enough. So I tend to use titanium white gouache. One thing you need to look at when you buy whites, by the way, Julie. Today's time was perfect. Oh, thank you. Don't know what time I came on actually. It was about 3 o'clock, wasn't it? Something like that. When you look at your watercolour whites, when you look at the manufacturers, look on the back of the tube or the half pan, whatever you buy. I'd prefer to buy tubes because it's more of a thicker consistency. You haven't got to work it up as you would do with a half pan. And look on the back and look for the permanence first of all, so you know it's not going to be, it's not going to fade in the light. It's going to be quite permanent on the paper. This is like a mediocre permanence, but the opacity, which is opaque, is what you're looking for. Some watercolour whites tend to be, as I mentioned earlier on, semi-opaque or semi-transparent. And because of that, they will not cover quite as well. So bear that in mind. So it's well worth having a look at the manufacturer's website. So if you say, for example, my paints here are, let's just show you. So my paints here are Winsor & Newton, which are these here. And they're the half pan blocks. You can find Winsor & Newton on their website, and you can see on there the kind of opacity states, the light fastness, do they fade in the sun, sort of thing. So you can find all that out on their website for your particular one. So these are, the ones I use are both the student and the professional quality. I use a bit of both with my paints. I'm not sponsored by them, don't worry. I wish I was. So bear that in mind. So you have to think about the opacity within the paint. So when you buy a watercolour white, look for some which are opaque. Okay, not semi-opaque, they've got to be opaque. And that way you find they will stay whiter that little bit longer. Okay, so that's just a few highlights on there. I can overlay that a little bit more with colour if I wanted to. I can easily do that. But for now, that'd be about it. You know, I'm sorry guys, I'm going to have to call it a day now because I've been on here for ages, for 33 minutes. All right, so because of that, I've got to make sure that I get on with the other work I've got to do, which is editing videos. Obviously, but guess where? You know it. www.patreon.com, the Devon Artist. You know where I am anyway. But as I say, remember, if you want to have a go at a free tutorial, pop on there for the Robin, as I said earlier on. You're more than welcome to have a go. It's all free. I'm free, but you know what I mean. Okay? So, any last questions, guys, before I go? If you do put a question on here after it's gone live, and I've gone home, I'm home. So I'll start again. If you put a question on here after it's gone live, just let me know, and I'll be checking this anyway, so we'll get notifications on any questions that people post on the paintings which I do, on the videos which I produce on here, and I will do my best to reply to your questions, okay? So, until next time around, I'm going to have to say goodbye, and I'll talk to you all again very soon. But thank you very much for staying on here for over half an hour and watching me doing a little bit of painting on this bar now. But I'll be back on tomorrow on Facebook. If you look for the Devon Artist on Facebook, you find me on there. And about 3 o'clock-ish UK time, I'll be on there in the afternoon again, just to kind of carry on with this bar now that little bit more. So, until then, I'll bid you good night, or good day, or good morning. And thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye for now.